Good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Sika, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the San Francisco Film Critics Circle, sffcc.org. The writer, director, producer of the film you just saw, MDMA, is here with us tonight to talk about the film and to take your questions. If you'll just indulge me here for about 45 seconds. Angie Wang. She holds a BA with a triple major in economics, political science, and psychology from Rutgers University. She is a survivor of not only the 1980s, but also of Silicon Valley in the 1990s, where she became a successful entrepreneur after founding her own sales and recruiting firm here. Along the way, she also founded GROW, G-R-O-W, or Global Resiliency Outreach Work, which provides innovative programs to at-risk youth that foster emotional resiliency and broaden life perspective. She believes that film is the perfect medium to tell stories that entertain, inspire thought, and shift perspective. And MDMA is her first feature film writing and directorial debut, and it's quite a movie, as you just experienced. Quite a story behind the making of the movie, which we're going to talk to her about right now, but not before you all give it up and extend a warm San Francisco welcome to MDMA writer-director Angie Wang. Okay.
They asked me if I wanted to sit, and I was like, absolutely.
Yeah, you're one of the few. They usually like to stand.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's why we're sitting. Angie, in a recent New York Times piece, you referred to the ethnicity of Asian as the model minority. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, I think I meant myself as the model minority, because I definitely did not fall into that stereotype. I didn't fall into that box. I was definitely not. My cousins here, I was not guai. I wasn't a good girl. I wasn't obedient. I was always kind of like doing my own thing, and I always felt like an outlier. So for me, that whole label, that branding of a model minority was suffocating.
We've just met because we were kept crossing texts. And I just want to say, you kind of look like a movie star, but I'm not just saying that because you're here. But doesn't she really? Doesn't she look gorgeous? I mean, anyway.
Thank you.
I'm going to steal another thing from that article, too. Having tackled drug trafficking in your 20s, technology sales in your 30s, and nonprofit work in your 40s, you have set your sights on the film business with no writing, directing, or producing experience. And on top of that, you're a middle-aged woman of color.
Yes.
Talk about that.
I'm batshit crazy, as you kind of have to be to embark upon a journey like this. But, it's funny, when I hear it read out to me like that, I'm like, oh, I guess it's kind of a lot. But it's just always been my life. I've just always been like, well, this is just my life, and I'm living it, and I'm crashing around, and this is just what I do. But I would say, one of the luxuries of being a middle-aged woman and having lived through some life and, having a little scratch is that you get to actually stop for a moment and take pause and just ask yourself, like, what do I want my legacy to be in the world? What do I want to leave behind? I'm not going to live forever, but I do feel like our society is at a very critical inflection point, and I wanted to do something to move the needle in what I believe to be the right direction. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'll make a fucking movie.
How much of the Angie in the movie is the Angie up here talking?
That's always a question that I get, and I love the way you framed it. She's certainly different on screen than she was in my, it's also different to understand the 18-year-old Angie through the eyes of 52-year-old Angie, because now I'm like, oh man, the poor girl, and back then I hated myself. I was full of self-loathing, and I didn't really have a whole lot of self-awareness, I would say. So, and also, she's a character now who's not just who I was, or who I wrote on the page, but she's living through Annie Q. So, Annie Q came in, she's a brilliant, really powerful, passionate actress, and she, kind of had to absorb the character that she took in from the page and, infuse her own kind of ethos and blast that out on the screen.
Getting back to the fact that this was your first movie, how, and I'm not being facetious, how did you know what to do? Even when you know how to make a movie, it's draining, it's immersive, it's exhaustive.
It is.
How did you, where did you start? I mean, What did you just say one day? Wake up in the morning. I'm going to make this movie, and
It was a tiny little flicker,
Yeah.
I think, and then it kind of blossomed into a flame, and it kind of like, it waxed and waned. And I actually was watching one of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies and I love those fucking movies, man. Like I'm like that idiot who just stands up and goes like, "That was fucking awesome!" So I remember thinking like, I had this moment where I was like, I'm gonna make a movie. Like, I'm going to see my fucking movie on the screen. And, people were like, you're crazy. Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I just kind of knew in my bones at that point that that's what I should do.
well, how much resistance did you get? You must have gotten tons.
Oh, my gosh, loads.
Yeah.
Loads and loads. But I'm kind of used to that. It's happened to me my whole life. So I've always been like, all right, well, I'll take your feedback, but fuck you very much. And let me go, I pretty much feel like this train is coming through.
Yeah, I think it was one of the producers said that you were probably the most persistent person he had ever known in his entire life.
Annoying, but no, because I stalked Cassian into it. But I think that, people are always asking me like, well, what do I do if I want to make a movie? And I'm like, you have to love the thing. You have to love this project.
Yeah.
Because, in order to see it through, you better love it or you're not going to see it through. It's like having a child. It really is. And, sometimes you want to beat the shit out of that kid. But they're the apple of your eye, and you love them, and you would do anything for them. So it's very similar. And I think in terms of knowing what I was going to do, I had a dream once that I was out in the middle of the ocean, and I had to get to land, and I was like freaked out because I was like, oh man, it's a fucking long way away. I don't know what to do. But I remember my little voice just said like, put your head down and keep kicking, and then look up, and you'll be closer to the land. And I think it's the same sort of idea behind when you embark upon any kind of huge project. You have to like sort of maintain focus and understand the task at hand, and then only every now and again, engage with the long-term goal.
But the business it's really a boys' club.
It is.
How did you negotiate your way through that?
People ask me that, and I've always been a woman of color. It's just always been who I've been, and I've always come up with, some level of resistance. And I'm not being a hater. I think it's a tough business, and it's especially tough for women, and it's probably especially tough for women of color. But I don't know that people are necessarily like trying to cock block you. I think it's just a tough business. And I think that if you want to get into it, you have to be super tenacious, and you have to not take no for an answer, and you have to just kick the fucking door down.
I also read somewhere that you are quite well known for your foul mouth.
Yes. When I did my NPR interview, I was like very careful to that's why I'm like speaking really slowly, because I'm like, I would normally say fuck here.
Yeah, but you're in San Francisco, so come on, hey, it doesn't matter. Yeah, right, hey. And we're at the Roxie.
Yes.
At the risk of sounding like a total yokel, I have never tried ecstasy. Is it all that it claims to be?
If it was mine,
It
was pretty good. And I think actually it's funny because the evidence that they used to ban it, the DA used to ban it, was actually not based on ecstasy. It was based on crystal meth. So I think there are some good therapeutic uses for it. Look, I'm not condoning going out and rolling, but I'm saying it's a fine line, and it's also, we're in a weird world. We have pharmaceutical companies that are trying to force all kinds of meds down our throats, and I think, it's up to us to sort of decide what we're going to ingest.
Well, is it addictive? I don't.
I would say it can be.
Well, did you ever have any concerns that you might become an addict yourself, or were you just too caught up in the fringe benefits of not only the drug itself, but the making of it?
I never did my own drugs because I was like, this is for money. I was like, I will do cocaine all day, but this is for fucking money. So, and I would tell all the people who were out hawking it, I'd be like, you better not be fucking taking the shit, because I'll tell you what, we're selling this.
How could you roughly share how much you made while you did this?
Oh, a fair amount.
A fair amount.
My lawyers are like, please
please don't
keep
say.
your mouth shut. I would say enough to help me get through school.
And it was legal when you started, but then it became illegal, but you ignored that, right?
It was definitely sort of a warning. It was kind of like, hey, you might want to rethink this. But it was something that it was easy for me to go back to if I needed money. So, it had that kind of hook. I'm
going to run into the audience, get you folks on the mic here in a second. But this is just a personal thing, and it's a stylistic thing that you did that I really, really liked. you faded to black a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't see that very often in contemporary films. You see it a lot in the films of the 30s and 40s and 50s and even 60s. But it was a nice, this is just a personal thing. I enjoyed seeing that as a stylistic device. It sort of implied to me that this person really knew what they were doing in terms of making transitions to the next scenes. Anyway,
I
whatever.
think in my own life it's about taking pause and taking a breath. And I think that's what fade to black means to me. Take a pause, take a breath. You know, don't just, because I think part of who I was at that age was just this crazy, damaged girl who was recklessly just crashing around and running so fast and hard that I didn't really take time to take pause to really think about what I was doing and how I was impacting others and myself. And, you know, so fade to black, I think, for me was that take a breath.
Oh, I love that. You're in the movie too, right? You're billed as boss lady, but I still didn't see you on the second viewing.
Oh, I walked past myself in the club.
Did
right
you
before
folks
Tommy was
recognize her
killed.
in the? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can't. I have such a hard time seeing that. I'm like, whoa! Like I can't.
Questions from you guys. I don't want to monopolize this conversation, and we want to get you on the mic because we're taping this. Okay, I'm going to come over there. Hang on. And I don't want to have to repeat the question. That's why. Hold on. Here we go. All right. Who was it? Okay, great.
Hi, great movie. I
you.
love seeing first-time filmmakers, and it's super inspiring as a filmmaker myself. How involved were you in the casting
Oh
for
my
this
God.
movie? Because I saw Eastwood.
Yeah, I'm a total control freak, come to find. Shocker, right? No, I mean, I think for me, this was a love note back to an industry, to a time in my life, and, you know, to my daughter. So I was extremely, extremely involved in the casting. You know, my casting director was like, well, I can just bring him in. And I was like, no. Like, I'm going to look at the tapes, too. I want to look at everyone's tape. There were a couple of people who she didn't call into the room who I was like, why is this person on the room? Because, I mean, Hollywood can be pretty political also. So I think that, you know, they make friends with their managers and their agents, and they want to get those people in first. But for me, I was like, no. Like, this is my story. I need to have the chemistry. I need to understand where I can take this character also, this actor, in terms of, like, the dark. And have them be okay, because I didn't want them to be a mess.
Francesca Eastwood, is that Clint's daughter?
Yes, and
Yeah.
her mother is now a dear friend of mine, Frances Fisher, who is that gorgeous
Right.
redheaded actress in
And
Titanic.
she's a great actress.
She's
isn't she?
amazing!
I know.
She's also super fun.
We have another question here.
What the fuck? What the
Amazing movie, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I have a question. Did you ever see or meet Brie again?
Did I see what?
Did you ever see Brie again?
Yeah, actually, well, Brie is basically, she's a composite of, you know, a number of different kids who I've worked with over the years. And she actually, largely Brie is based on this guy, Daryl Davis, who actually was at the CamFest opening. So I think I called him onto stage.
Okay.
So yeah. And he just graduated from Oberlin, and he's doing really well. He's going to go to law school. He's awesome.
I just wanted to make a quick comment as like a fellow small Asian foul-mouthed girl. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for this representation in like the era of Crazy Rich Asians. I'm so glad to see so much representation, but this specifically called out to me, and I want to say thank you.
You're so welcome, honey. Go make a movie. Keep being foul-mouthed.
The hospital scene
Yes.
between Janine and Angie, there was so much power and emotion in that scene. Please say you didn't have them do that like 20 times.
No.
And how did you what did you tell your actors? How did you direct them for that scene? It's gut-wrenching.
You know,
that
I
scene.
will disclose that some of you may have stalked me online. I am the mother of a daughter who has definitely struggled with anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation. And around the same time that my movie started to launch, she started to get pretty dark. And I had to actually get her a higher level of care. So this was a love note back to that. And I think, you know, my girls got really tight with Jade, and that, you know, we're all like, you know, I think when we shot that, we were like, this is for Jade. So it was, sorry, it was very personal. And I think all of us had that experience. All of us, we knew each other all so well by that point. There was real chemistry, there was real bonding. I mean, the reason why I'm friends with Frances is because I called her and I was like, how do I take care of your girl? So I think we all were on the same page, and it was like 2 takes.
It's an amazing scene. It's really
thank you.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Your relationship with your own father is depicted here in this movie. Was it similar? Did he ever, I mean,
Yeah, my father is a really complex and wonderful and really smart and witty guy, but I actually think he's bipolar, but untreated. And I think that, he still struggles with the whole, Jade and I will be riding around in the car, and I'll have him on speaker. I'll be like, Jade, check this. Pop, love you. Click. Because it's uncomfortable for him, but he would die for me. He would, if we were both starving, he would give me the food off of his plate. That's how he demonstrates love, and as a 52-year-old woman now, that's how I have to receive him.
You shot obviously a lot of this in San Francisco. Was that Ruby Sky?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
and Palace
yeah.
of Fine Arts and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We got really lucky. We shot just about everything. We did shoot everything in the Bay Area.
More questions? We still have a little bit of time.
Someone asked me something.
This might be dumb, but people are real sensitive these days, so I need to ask it anyway. But given that Angie's a party girl and a drug dealer and falling outside the stereotyped ethnicity purview that Asian women are perceived or portrayed on screen, and what we usually see representative of women of color like herself, have you gotten any? I almost feel stupid asking this.
Hate?
Have you gotten any blowback from the Asian community?
I have. There are a couple of people who really have cock blocked it. They've been like, I had a really tough time getting into festivals, and I think some people are really intimidated by it, or they don't want to. This is not the portrayal that they want. They want crazy rich Asians. They want a math problem doing wonton eating girl. They want. And, I remember getting the feedback because I was like, I don't understand why I'm not getting into any fucking festivals. And they basically said, well, we don't really know what to do with this. It's, it's Asian, kind of, but it's urban, which of course is code for black. And I just thought, I was like, well, yeah, it's a universal story. It's a story about the solidarity of the human experience. Why do you have to stuff it into a box? But I think it's challenging for some people, I think, to break out of that.
Good.
Yay, a question.
Hey, question. Could you pass this, please?
Thank you. I'm curious, you spoke about how at that age you were crashing around and didn't have much self-realization, and you were not able to see the impact that your life and your choices were making on others. I'm curious about that that transition to an adulthood and
Slow and gradual.
how that happened.
What's that?
And just how that happened, if you feel like you really realize that now, or what
Yeah.
was that like that moment? Like I'm an adult now?
I don't know that there was like a light bulb moment. I think it was a gradual process, and I think I was always like a pretty sensitive kid, and I wanted other people to be happy, and I always was pretty empathetic. I'd walk into a room and be like, they're smiling, but I know they're really mad.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a society that doesn't necessarily teach us how to use that. They don't teach us how to be empathetic, how to have boundaries, how to, you know what I mean? So for me, it was a gradual process, and I really think, I had my daughter when I was 32, and I think that really was a turning point in terms of me doing a lot of self-examination, and I think I was doing a group once, well, what makes people change? And I was like, for me, profound pain. Because if I'm comfortable, if an alcoholic's comfortable, and still partying and having fun, then they're not going to stop drinking. So for me, I looked at my daughter, and she's this beautiful, precious little thing, and I thought, well, what kind of mother do I want to be to her? And it causes a lot of reflection. I think it's a catalyst for a lot of self-reflection, and I think that was the point from which I started doing a lot of that kind of work. And then I found that the more I did, the better I felt. So.
Thank you. I also wanted to point out that your colorist is here.
Where?
Chris.
Chris, what's up? Hey.
Sorry.
Who was the brilliant guy who did your color?
Yeah, the color looked awesome. Maybe I just took more of a comment, but I just wanted to say I've had the pleasure of working on a lot of independent films, and I love working with, kind of raw, new filmmakers. And I was just really amazed at, as a first-time director, the performances that you got out of the actor and how emotive it is. And it's great to sit here. It was the first time I got to see the film with an audience and just get caught up in the emotion. And it's just always really special. And I'm always blown away by that hospital scene as well. So.
Aw. Thanks, Chris. It's good to see you.
The last shot of you with the young people, the photo, what's the context for that?
Those are kids from a group that I did with Marjorie Schlenops, Teach with Africa. It was a process group. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But those were I had them from 7th grade, and then they were graduating from 8th grade, and that was their 8th grade graduation that I went back to.
Who is Jade? The film is dedicated
my daughter.
for my Jade. Oh, okay. All right.
My daughter.
Good. We have another
The
comment.
apple of my
over
eye, the
here.
biggest pain in my ass.
Okay.
This time I have a real question. Do you have any other movies in the works or any ideas, stories? Oh, shoot. Okay, great.
Absolutely. Yes, I have one that I've written. We just did a really good table read for it. It's called Blue Blooded, and it's a gritty cop indie story. I was just tired of flipping open my Facebook feed and seeing like, hey, another kid of color has been shot dead by a cop, and we don't give a fuck. So I sought to really, I feel like cops also can get a bum rap. I mean, they're out there on the streets. It can be a very a ruthless, a brutal environment for them as well. So my position is that both sides share the same PTSD, just from opposite ends of the coin. And then I found out about this really kind of lesser known chapter of the New York Police Department, which is like a squad of them were sent down to New Orleans post Katrina, to assist with the cleanup. And I took all these cops out and hung out with them, and they were really very forthcoming. And they were like, Ange, we're like hardened New York cops. The shit we saw would curdle your blood. Like just shooting people dead in the street and dumping their bodies in the levee, just like crazy shit. So I thought we need to really own that. We need to pull that back in and also just see what that does to a total outsider. His perspective is totally as an outsider. He's not an NOPD guy. He's a cop, and you don't talk. You don't tell your secrets outside of that brotherhood. But what does it do to you when you take that and you go back to New York? What does that do to your psyche? It becomes part of your DNA.
I love it. Thank you. I love that you're doing the nitty-gritty of real life, and keep doing it.
Thank you.
On the end credits scroll, you give thanks to a bunch of people, but you give thanks to a Deborah Wilson. Is that the Deborah Wilson of Mad TV?
I don't even know, because I think Rick put that up there.
I was just curious.
My two were Alex Madigan and in memory of Teresa Yuan, who is Ron's mom, who played my dad, who passed away. So Ron and I are like bloods. He's shooting Mulan now.
Oh, wow. We have another question?
I just want to praise you real quick.
Oh.
You are amazing. Your shoes are cute. You're beautiful. Your dress is cute. Oh my gosh, you're stylish. You're so smart. You are such a womanly figure to look up to. It's so amazing. Anything you make, I'm watching it. I'm gonna watch it. I will be there. Girl, anything you do, I will want to see it.
These are my big girl shoes. They give me an extra 4 inches. Marjorie thought I was 5'6" when I met her. I'm like, no, I'm 5'2".
Okay, so I think we're out of time. But the movie, could you tell? Now it's getting a limited theatrical, and then it's going to be on it's on VOD
actually
now
on
as
VOD
we
now.
as
It's
we
on
speak.
VOD now, yes. So iTunes, Amazon, all the Comcast type
Yeah,
of things.
the new way of
I
distribution.
know. I fucking hate that. I mean, I think it's great, but I also am like, there's something you get transported
Totally.
when you walk in here,
Totally.
and the sound is great, and the lights go
It's
down.
true.
and
It is true.
You're in
Yeah.
a different world. You're not watching it on a phone, which is my pet peeve, or oh, I got to take a call, or I'm gonna,
My students do that. They watch movies on their phone. One of them, no, really. So the other day,
Fail them.
this is yeah. I was gonna say, but this is really interesting. One of the 12-year-old boys was and I said, "What do you want?" He was watching Ben-Hur of all movies, right? Which is the spectacle of spectacle. But he was totally into it. He was totally. I said, you really need to see that on a big screen. Like even on a big TV screen would be better.
Yes.
But he was really into it. So I mean, who's to say, right?
They connect with it in a different way now.
in a
It's just
different way.
world.
But it is true because I first saw the film on a computer screen and was blown away by it. But I did watch 80% of it in here with the audience.
Well, that's why I was so pleased, actually, that
better.
you weren't texting me, because I was like,
I
oh,
know.
maybe he's so immersed that he doesn't want to come and talk to me.
No, actually what happened, they don't need to know this.
No.
But, anyway, so what I like to say at the end of these things, seriously, and I mean this, if you like the film, tell your friends. Tell your friends about it.
Yes,
Go on social
please.
media, spread the word. If you didn't like it, don't say anything on social media about it at all. Just
I got
only
an
if you
update
liked
on
it.
social media right now.
Yeah, so please give it up for Angie Wang and her great movie, MDMA.